Welcome, everybody. Today, my wife Connie and I are going to do a very special channeling once again of the Prophet Muhammad. He is with us. We welcome that he has chosen us to bring you his messages. We offer these messages with the greatest respect, and as we have done in previous times, we know that we are bringing you the true words of the Prophet Muhammad. So, Connie, if you would like to begin, we can begin with the questions.
Okay. Thank you, Prophet, for joining us again. Would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I would. As I've told you before, I always appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak once again. When you're on the other side, it is very difficult to get messages through. I continuously attempt to influence others, but you're living in extremely troubled times. Many countries hate other countries. Many countries have weapons of mass destruction that they could wipe out all of the life on this planet. I want the members of my Islamic faith to understand that the only way into the future is for coexistence. I know that there are many out there that have many dislikes, and that is not without cause. But you must learn to work with others. You must adapt to others. You must learn. You must be equal, men, women. You must be educated to move into the future. Things have changed drastically since I walked the earth. I hope that you will read all of my messages. Barry will be presenting them to you. I hope that you pay attention to them and understand. All I want is for the members of my great faith to advance, to live in peace, and to be able to prosper for hundreds or thousands of years into the future. So, Connie, I know that my followers have presented many questions for me to answer. So if you wish to begin, we can commence.
I definitely wish to begin. You have told us that you hear all prayers and attempt to intercede with God if the prayers do not go against a life plan. How is it possible that we are hearing your actual words from the afterlife?
I have sent my servant Barry back to bring messages. He has brought messages from religious leaders of all different sects. He has worked with me in the past, and he has been given a very, very special ability so that he can truly speak my words. Before those of you doubt that he is truly speaking my words, I want you to read all of my answers. Look at them and understand that there is no way those answers could be coming from anyone except myself. I know it is difficult to believe that a spirit can speak this freely, but it is so. Open your mind, read, and understand the gift that my messages can bring you.
Okay, will you tell us about your level in heaven and your relationship with God?
I am on the 7th level. I am very near to God. I have served him many, many times. I have served him many, many times before I walked the earth as Muhammad. He sent me back to bring a peaceful, one God religion to the people of the Middle East. I am near to him. He speaks with me often. He tries to direct me, and he wants me to continue to serve him, even though I'm on this side. That is what I am doing. I am with God. I am with Allah. I am with the one God, the one energy, any way you want to describe him. But while I am on this side, I am very, very close to him.
Have you ever communicated with anyone from the afterlife before? If the answer is no, why have you selected this time an individual to speak your words?
I have truly attempted to speak to others. I've come to them in dreams. I've sent others back. I have sent others back to help lead. I want you to understand that this is a very, very critical time. I want you to know that we need God's words to be spread. If this does not take place, then we will not be able to advance and to prosper as I want my people to do.
Yes. Some of your followers believe that Barry and I serve a conspiracy group or have ulterior motives. How would you answer them?
The answers to that question are very simple. As I said before, many times I have asked him to come back to act as an intermediary to bring my words to my followers. Even though the words differ in many ways from the basic teachings from the Quran, from what the elders speak to you, that is the way I want things to be. You must understand that times are not as they were in the 7th century. For Islam to advance and to maintain a strong place in the world economies, they need to be flexible in their understandings and in the words of the teachings. That can only happen by listening to my contemporary words.
Yes. You told us that as a child, you heard voices and received messages, but you could not speak of them for fear of being executed. What would you tell us? Would you tell us what those messages were that you received as a child and how they affected your adult life?
Angels came to me in my dreams. They told me that I would affect many in my adulthood. They told me that I had been sent back to do many great things. Now, as a child, I did not understand in any way of which they were speaking. But as I advanced in age, they continued to come to me, and the messages would mean much more. They warned me that I would be living a life much different. They told me that I would be leading my people. They told me that I would be doing much to serve the one God.
Okay. As a child, you said you believed in idols and followed the religion of the Prophet Ibrahim. How did those beliefs affect your foundation for the Islam religion?
In my childhood, people did not worship the one God as such. There were members of the Christian or Jewish faith that we knew. They served the one God. But my tribes would worship many different deities. I grew up believing that there were different gods that would influence different parts of your life. The spirits and angels came to me and told me this was not true, that there was but a single God, and that my mission in life would be to serve him. That is what I tried to do.
Okay, so you said that you saw angels as a child. How did they interact with you?
They came to me in dreams. I cannot say to you that I actually looked and saw the presence of an angel in front of me, but I would have these incredibly realistic dreams, and they would implant messages in my mind. And when I awoke, I would understand that I had truly witnessed energies and individuals from the hereafter.
Okay. Many Christians fled to the Middle East to avoid Roman persecution. What was your opinion of Christians as a child, and how did their association or teachings affect the founding of Islam?
I was involved in trading with others. I met and got to know many Christians and many Jews. The Christians spoke of their religion and their interest in the one God, and they actually presented us with writings. I was intrigued by what they had to say. The Jewish people had many ancient writings of which they spoke. They spoke of individuals far in the past. They spoke of a single God. That was a concept that was shared by both the Christians and the Jews. I listened closely to what they had to say. And when the time came, I used some of their concepts as a foundation for what would become the Quran. They spoke of an end of days, and I believed it. They spoke of a hell, and I believed that as well. So there are many concepts that we borrowed from the teachings that I became aware of as I grew into adulthood.
During your childhood, there were several Jewish tribes that lived near Mecca and Medina. As the prophet, 2 of your wives were from Jewish tribes. How did your association with the Jewish religion affect the foundation for the Islamic faith?
There were many things about the Jewish faith that had an effect on me. Keep in mind, we had no animosities towards the Jewish tribes because quite often they would actually support what I was doing. The Jewish faith had some basic beliefs. The concept of heaven, the concept of hell, one God. There were things that I heard growing up as into adulthood, and I had no animosities towards the Jewish tribes. I did take Jewish wives, and they were wonderful women. The hatred towards the Jewish people is more of a modern phenomenon. It goes back to the problems that the Jewish people had even before the Second World War, where so many of them were killed. I would hope that the members of my faith could reconcile with the Jewish people much as I was reconciled with them.
Okay. During a time that you were traveling, your wife Aisha became separated, and when she was led back to the group by a man, was accused of adultery. Would you please tell us about that incident?
We were traveling and she became separated from our group. She had to go to the bathroom. We did not realize that she had separated, and we kept on traveling, and she was left behind. She became disoriented. An individual helped her to find her way back to the group. There were some of my so-called friends that did not like Aisha, and they started to spread rumors that she had committed adultery with this individual. I was caught off guard. I knew that Aisha had a pure heart, but many others spread the rumor about it and lies. We sorted out the truth. And as I felt deep in my heart, nothing had taken place. So it was totally a misunderstanding, but it shows just how dangerous it is when individuals make up stories and tell lies. I was foolish enough to pay attention to the stories that were told in spite of what I knew in my heart. Aisha is and was a wonderful soul, and I should not have paid attention to the words of others.
When you married your first wife, was it according to the Christian religion?
Keep in mind, in those days, there were many different thoughts concerning the Christian religion. We celebrated my first marriage. We danced, we sang, we drank wine. We did many of the things that the Christians would have done. What was important was the fact that I was marrying my first wife. We did not do it according to some of the mores of the tribes. We did it as a compromise. We did not feel that we were obligated towards any specific way of creating the bonds that were between us. She was a wonderful woman, and what was important was the fact that I was marrying her.
Okay. The Hadith states that all revelations will stop upon your death. Is the Hadith accurate and no prophets were ever sent after your death?
No, we sent many people back to try to influence the Islamic faith after my passing. Many of the individuals tried to do their best. Many of the individuals that we sent back were ignored and actually failed in their missions. But we did try to send people back after my passing to assure the longevity of the Islamic faith.
Were there any instances where a successor distorted a revelation and replaced your teachings with false teachings?
There are actually many instances where my words were not recorded accurately. Sometimes individuals recorded the words that they were sure that they heard. Sometimes they felt that they could make my words more clear to people. Sometimes I think they felt that they could complicate my words. Keep in mind, as I spoke, very few of the words were written down directly. Just as the messages of Jesus were recorded from memory, many of my messages were recorded from memory as well.
Okay, you informed us in a previous session that you reinterpreted sentences in the Quran to make it easier for your followers to understand. Portions were taken from people's memory, and there were also revelations from God. What portion of the Quran is the Word of God, and what portion is attributed to Him?
That is a very, very difficult question to answer. Many of my concepts were correctly translated into what was to become the Quran. Many of my concepts were based on a combination of Jewish and Christian foundation. The Quran became an incredibly complicated instrument of our faith. As I speak to you now, I try to speak in very simplistic terms so that everybody can understand. I did not intend that my words could only be interpreted by people of the religion. I did not intend that writings were created that would allow multiple interpretations. What is important now is that you pay attention to my modern messages. As you have noted, all of which I speak is now done in very simplistic terms that will be very difficult to misinterpret.
Did you teach that Islamic beliefs contain all the necessary information required for living your life?
No. I taught that the beliefs were the best for leading the tribes into unifying into a common religion. I had to pass rules that applied simply to the times. Those times have now changed drastically. For instance, in those days, had I asserted the rights of women, I would have lost many of my supporters. Today we know that women are totally equal with men. They are capable of being, in some instances, even more educated than men, and they are capable of having total equality. That is one of the major things that have changed.
Did you teach that religious elders should interfere with all aspects of an individual's life?
In my time, it was necessary that we enforced some strict regulations because we were building from foundation zero. Today, it is important that individuals follow very varied paths. Today, there are thousands and thousands of different occupations. In my time, we lived very simplistic lives. We traded, we raised food, we exchanged money, but we did not do all the complicated things that are required in modern economies. Today, the members of the Islamic faith have got to diversify, they've got to adapt, and they have to learn the techniques that will keep them competitive in this modern world.
How would you respond to those that believe there is no need for modern laws?
I would tell them that it will be impossible for them to advance. Things have changed. As I've repeatedly told you, in my day, things were relatively simple. We had harsh penalties for stealing. We did not have many truly educated individuals. Women were not educated, were simply thought of as vessels to give birth to children. Many things have changed. Anybody that thinks that only the ways of the 7th century will suffice to carrying them into the modern times is making a huge mistake.
In life, what was the best Islamic doctrine that you advised Muslims to embrace?
One of the most important things that I asked them to embrace was the concept of a single God. I knew that service to multiple gods was not the way of things. I wanted them to understand that if they followed simple teachings, that it would be possible for them to advance and to unite. The concept of coexistence was very important. We had to fight. I had to protect my followers, and in those days, it was very difficult to expand concepts and religions without taking military action. Today, I would hope that the modern members of my faith would focus upon love and understanding. Much has changed since my time, but also much has changed to make it very, very difficult to advance and to live peaceably.
Several hadiths and verses from the Quran encourage Muslims to free slaves. Were these your words? And what would you say about those that continued to hold slaves until the last century?
Once again, had I ordered all of my followers to release their slaves, I would have lost my followers. I personally felt that slaves were mistreated. I tried to eliminate them having to submit forcibly to different types of sexual intercourse. But I had to be very careful. I needed to maintain the support of my followers. And had I forced them to eliminate slavery, it's quite conceivable that there would be no Islamic faith today. Many individuals took advantage of this through the ages. Slaves were a source of free labor. Those that maintained slavery into current times were certainly not following my wishes.
You told us earlier that you adapted certain Christian teachings into Islam. What Christian teaching played the largest role in establishing the foundation of Islam?
I can't say that there was one true concept. The concept of end of days played a very large role. The concept of hell, the concept of heaven, all of these played major roles in the formation of our faith.
Okay. Did you teach that all of those that lived before the creation of Islam are in hell?
I did not say that specifically. I was guilty of saying things that would, shall we say, nudge individuals to joining my following. The concept of souls going to hell was basically one of the Jewish and Christian faith. We followed some of those concepts, but I did not specifically say that all individuals that lived before we founded our faith of Islam went to hell.
Okay. During your lifetime, did you succeed in securing any additional rights for women?
Yes, I did attempt to bring more rights to them. Many of my family were very strong women. My daughter, as you know, formulated a branch of Islam. My wives were strong. I tried to understand their needs and wants. But, as I pointed out before, I had to tread carefully. Otherwise, I would have alienated those that I needed for support.
Yes. After your death, there developed contradictions between the Hadiths and the Quran. How did these develop, and do you prefer the interpretations of the Quran over the Hadith?
I prefer the interpretations that reflect what I am speaking in modern times. There are contradictions. Different individuals drafted portions of the Quran. They drafted portions of the Hadith. And those writings would often reflect their memories or what they thought I should have said. Anything that it does not agree with the modern messages that I am bringing you would be in conflict with the writings.
Yeah. Did you feel that there would be conflicts in Islam after your death? And if so, why did you not produce a will with your wishes in it?
Well, as I told you earlier, death came as a surprise to me. I had always been fairly healthy. I'd done much, and I did not realize that my time was so rapidly approaching. That is one of the great failures that I had in my life, was not preparing a true outline of how I wanted the faith to continue and who I wanted to have continue the faith.
After the death of Ali, your grandson, the son of Fatima, he took power. From the other side, did you feel he was most deserving of the caliphate?
I thought that Ali was truly capable of doing a good job. I thought that many of my followers were capable of taking over the religion, of giving leadership. I did not realize that there was so much misunderstandings in my teachings. The split that followed my passing made me very sad at the time as I watched, and I am still sad today. It is hard for me to conceive that such differences could exist and manifest themselves for well over 1,000 years.
Yeah. Your grandson Al-Hassan handed power over to Muawiyah, one of your companions, to avoid a war. From the other side, did you consider this the proper move?
Yes. I thought that my grandson was doing his best to preserve peace between the different factions that had arisen after my passing. I knew that compromises would be required. He understood in life that compromise was required as well, and I felt that he did what was proper.
Did the Greek culture play any role in the formation of the Islamic faith?
Yes, the Greeks were great traders, and as I said, I was a merchant myself in life. I met many people of Greek culture, and they spoke of the great philosophers. In those days, we did not have much access to the writings of the great philosophers, but I enjoyed having discussions with individuals with Greek foundations. Much or some of the logic that I tried to bring in drawing my people together reflected thoughts that were discussed as with individuals that had Greek backgrounds.
Okay. Then you did have a fair amount of knowledge about the Greek culture.
I had some. I wouldn't say that it was a fair amount. Keep in mind, as I keep saying, books were at a premium in those days. We did have access to some writings, but mostly what I learned of the Greek culture was through discussion.
Okay. After your passing in 632, the caliphs rapidly expanded the Islamic empire. Was this rapid expansion due to greed or religious zeal?
Both. Keep in mind that the secret to the success of the Roman Empire was through continuous expansion of lands and conquering others. The tribes that we brought together also understood the concept of expansion. They understood that in order to emulate the success of the Roman Empire, they had to do much the same. Many of my followers had great zeal. They felt that my messages were the only true path to life and to understand the concepts of a God, of Allah. Some, as time progressed, were more interested in power. They knew that military expansion was the way to gain riches. They realized that money was required for these expansions, and much of it came from the looting that came when lands were captured. So it was truly a combination of greed and zeal, I would say.
Okay. Were you told that the only way the world could be saved was by Islamic expansion?
Not specifically. I understood that we had to make our tribes attempt to believe as one in religion and faith. Once that was accomplished, then military expansion did become a real possibility. But I was never specifically told that I should focus on geographic expansion.
Okay. Many of the teachings of Christianity and Judaism provided the foundation for Islamic teachings. Why do Muslims have such a hatred for these religions?
In my time, we did not hate those religions. Through the ages, as Christians attempted to expand, as Islamic followers attempted to expand, each faith began to believe that they were the only true religion. As members of our faith expanded into Europe, the Christian Crusades began, where they tried to militarily take back those lands. Hatreds began to form. The Jewish faith, for instance, had no real homeland where they could go and find continuous peace. Everybody fought over the different properties. Expansions of religions became religious zeal. Many lives were taken trying to convert individuals to what they would call the one true faith. Today, I want you to understand that there is no one true faith. The only true faith is following the words of the one God. However you translate it into whatever language you use. When individuals believe that there is only one single path to heaven and that they need to reform everyone to that single path, it develops animosities. It builds hatreds. If everyone just truly conceived of the many, many paths to heaven, then I do believe that many of those hatreds would go away.
Yeah. What is the opinion that Islam holds of Freemasons, and how did they acquire that opinion?
During the Middle Ages, the Freemasons became associated with the religious crusades. Many of the leading individuals of the Crusades became Freemasons, and many of them were misunderstood. Masonic organizations changed through the ages. Many of them became charities. Many of the most famous political leaders became Masons. But Freemasonry was not something that members of the Islamic faith participated in. And since Freemasons were basically a secret organization, they became something to be attacked and misunderstood. Just the same as Christians often became hated by members of my faith, Freemasons were also associated into that hatred.
Okay. When you lived, did you believe the day of judgment was near?
Yes. Men of religions all spoke of the end of days. Throughout the ages, the end of days was a fear that was used to bring individuals to participate in a certain faith so that when the end of days came, their souls would be saved and the others would go to the burning hell that was also created as a form of fear. All of the faiths that I associated with conceived of the concept of the end of days. So it was only natural that I would believe that as well.
What do you consider the greatest differences between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism?
That's another very difficult question. I think that Islam, by putting such harsh penalties on individuals that leave their faith, create a situation that makes it very difficult to bring new members into the faith. New members have to be firmly committed to the beliefs of Islam because they know once they make that step of conversion, it can cost them their lives to leave that faith. When you break it down to the most basic concepts of all those religions, you'll find this great similarity. I think if everyone focuses on the similarities, basically the concept of doing unto others as you have them do unto you, show love, show compassion, show charity. That is the foundation of all religions. Focus on the similarities and not the dissimilarities. If individuals did that, they would truly come together. There's actually much more that the main religions have in common than what they do not have in common.
True. If there was one belief of modern Islam that you could change, what would it be?
It would be the concept of jihad. The concept of killing individuals of other religions is far, far from the teachings of God. The concept of killing those you disagree with has created many times that individuals do not understand the true concepts of the Islamic faith. Because of jihad, people fear Islam. They do not understand that many of the basic teachings of Islam are charity and love. I think that if I had one thing or one concept that I would remove from the teachings of my faith, it would be that of jihad and creating violence to people that disagree with our religion.
What practice of Islam do you consider most appropriate for modern times?
Islam has many concepts that are very, very appropriate. The concept of charity, the concept of helping others, the concept that individuals show a devotion to Allah or God. The concept that individuals must speak to God through prayer. Now, the concept of continuous prayer or speaking to God in only one fashion is not accurate with his teachings. But there are many people that truly understand that Islam is a loving faith. If they drive out the concepts of violence towards others, educate the other religions of the world as to what their true meaning is, and follow those meanings, I think that everyone in the world could learn to coexist, and that is truly what is required for humans to advance into the future.
Yes. According to Hadith, there are 5 basic practices: prayer, Hajj, zakah, jihad, and fasting. In modern times, what do you consider the most important of these practices?
I would tell you that prayer is the most important. When you pray to me or to God, we know what is on your mind, and we know how we can help guide you and influence you. The Hajj is very important. It was much more important than it is today because our faith has grown to such an extent that it is almost impossible for billions of people to come and pay homage. In my day, it was important because it helped build unity. Jihad, I would consider as the worst pillar. While it is good to try to bring people into our faith, it is not the teachings of God to show violence towards others that do not agree with it. Fasting can help cleanse your body if done properly. Zakat is important for charity. Many people do not follow it. Many people do not give as much to charity as they should be giving. There are members of the Islamic faith with incredible wealth. They have so much wealth that their countries could have no poverty if they so intended. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes. What do you consider the least important of these practices?
Jihad. Jihad is a terrible practice and leads to so much misunderstanding about our faith.
So, Prophet, what would you tell those that do not help the needy and build great wealth?
I would tell them that when they return home, they will be judged for it. Charity is one of the most important aspects or pillars of our faith. If those people of unimaginable wealth would show charity, would help all of the people that are around them, there would be no poverty. You see, when people of great wealth make the decision to not show charity, they are guaranteeing that many live in poverty. And because of that decision, they will realize their mistake when they return for their judgment.
Yeah. Who are you closest to in heaven?
I'm still close to many. Many of my followers are very close to me as yet over here. Aisha, my wives, I still see them. We're very close. I'm very close to all of the members that God sent back to create the different religions. I know Buddha well. I know many of the founders of the Hindu faith. Once you get over here, you have the great understanding. You are literally close to anyone to whom you want to be close to. The great politicians. I think that I am closest still to those that have served me in life. When Barry is on this side, I'm still very close to his soul. If I had not been, I would not have been able to ask him to return to bring my messages. So you see, the afterlife is but a continuation of trying to obtain and follow the wishes of God.
What souls do you avoid in heaven?
I do avoid those souls that have shown violence towards my followers. There are many evil souls that are in the lower levels of heaven, and I do not have to worry about avoiding them. But there are many individuals that did harm, but did it, shall we say, from a lack of knowledge and understanding. Individuals that have harmed Islam through the years, I do try to avoid. We don't have hatred over here, but there is still dislike. It is very difficult, and because we still show dislike, that is why we have not been able to obtain the same level as God.
Okay. The Quran states that very evil people, such as Hitler, will remain in hell forever. Will you tell us what happens to truly evil people?
Truly evil people are sent to the lowest level of heaven. There are seven realms plus the lowest level. It is a place of nothingness. There's no time over here, so those souls can remain for thousands and thousands of years. And they need to reflect on what they've done to harm so many people. They need to reflect on how they will repay the karma for what they've done. When God decides that they truly understand what they've done, He will in most instances allow them to return and continue in lifetimes where the karma can be paid back. So there is truly a lower level. There is no fire, there's no brimstone, there's no torture there, but it is a nothingness. And if you have ever sat in a dark room of total silence, you will understand that perhaps that nothingness is worse than a burning hell.
And God also said that on the other hand, we are as free as we are on earth, as we were on earth. What if a soul refuses to enter this previously described place? Would it be forced to enter heaven?
A soul can choose to remain earthbound. There are many souls that fear the judgment that they will face when they return. They can make a choice to stay in their environment. It is a sad thing when they do that, because it is only when you return and are judged that you can make decisions where you can truly advance in the realms. But since there is no time over here, there's really no rush for them to return to heaven. It is a personal choice that each soul makes.
Does a deceased soul need our prayers to help with his transition to heaven?
Prayers can help bring peace to a deceased soul. The soul will understand that the incarnate soul still cares about them and loves them, and that can help bring them peace. But the soul, once it returns to heaven, has got to use its own free will and make its own decisions. And it is only through using that free will when in heaven that they can choose a path that will help them advance.
Do our prayers help with his soul in heaven being forgiven for his sins?
Once the soul returns, it is judged for the sins that it has done. Our prayers will do little to help that soul be forgiven. It is the individual free will that soul uses in its life that creates the sins that it will have to pay karma for. Forgiveness will come when the soul understands what it has done. Our prayers can bring a soul comfort and understanding, but will do little to help it in its judgment.
In previous sessions, you told us that some stories mentioned in the Quran were taken from the Christian Gospels or other heavenly books. Did you select which stories were to become a part of Islam?
I spoke of the stories in which I believed. Those stories did become a part of Islam, but other individuals also added stories of which I did not speak. So what I did believe in became a part of the Quran. Mostly it was interpreted in the ways of the people that wrote the words. As I told you many times, I did not really participate in writing my own words, but others would try to memorize what I said, would try to remember, and would often take notes.
Okay. What would you tell us about the teachings in the book of Revelations that became incorporated into the Quran?
The teachings of Revelations misled many that would become members of the Islamic faith. The concept of end of days was exaggerated by the Catholic Church to force people to fear death and to come to the sacraments of the church for forgiveness. The book of Revelations did much to introduce members of the Islamic faith to have fear of retribution upon passing. It did little to let the individual know that how they lived their life was how they would be judged. The concept that God would destroy humans brought an element of fear that should not have been incorporated into the Quran.
Okay. What role did Salman al-Farsi play in influencing the Quranic texts?
Salman was a very, very knowledgeable individual. We would speak at length and we would have discussions. And he would convince me in many of his beliefs. So he did play a fairly large role in influencing the texts, but he did it by influencing my thoughts.
Okay. When Gabriel came to you, we are told that he informed you there was one God and he was named Allah. Why did he not tell you simply to refer to him as God, as in the Christian faith?
God wanted to differentiate himself from the Christian faith. He felt that the tribes of the Middle East needed to have a unique religion, different from Christianity, but based on the same basic tenets of Christianity, if that makes sense. By referring to God as Allah, he created a uniqueness to the Islamic faith.
Is there a difference between the Christian God and Allah?
None whatsoever. There is only a single energy of God, however you want to refer to it.
Is there any way to know when God or Allah is present?
Sometimes people can actually feel the energies of God. I know that you and Barry feel the energies of God when he is near. Many people choose to ignore that energy. Many people are incapable of feeling that energy. And those are the individuals that generally have so much trouble believing in God.
Does Allah only hear us when we speak to him in prayer?
When we speak to him in prayer, he totally understands what that soul needs or requires. The soul may pray to angels. It may pray to other individuals. Members of the Islamic faith pray to me. They show me great respect. And I will pass on their prayers to God. I may pass them on to angels that can help or their guides. You see, there's this huge network over here that provides guidance and inspiration. If you do not voice through prayer what you are requesting, then that guidance generally does not take place. When you ask for help, help will be given.
What is the truth of the Raelian religion, which denied the existence of God and the existence of the soul?
The truth is, it is a fool's errand to deny the existence of God. They are correct in the existence of the soul, but there is no way that they can logic that a soul can exist without a God. So there are many fallacies to that religion.
Yeah. What is the best way to convince a non-believer that God or Allah exists?
Each soul has got to show faith. It is intentional that God or Allah does not show a physical presence. You see, each soul has to use its free will to use faith to believe in God. If God took physical form and showed absolute proof, there would be no need for faith. Faith is a test that each individual must pass. If each soul has faith that God exists, then they're more inclined to follow his teachings. You see, life is a test. Every day, every moment, each soul is tested. Faith is required to pass those tests. If an individual wants proof of God, all they have to do is look around them. How could all the beauties of nature exist without a God? Look at a newborn baby. How can you take 2 cells and create such a miracle in such a short period of time? It should be the easiest thing imaginable to believe in God. Yet most people, many people I should say, would rather believe in greed, personal wealth, hedonism, enjoyment of physical pleasures. It is so easy to believe in God that most people overlook how to do it.
What is the best way to release anger?
Releasing anger is one of the most difficult things that a human soul can do. God created anger for that reason. If you are angry, you need to step back and close your mind to that anger. If you're feeling anger, go into a light meditation. Tell yourself that it serves no purpose and that it will only be returned.
Is Satan real? And if so, will you describe him for us?
Satan is referred to as the personification of evil energies. Satan is not real in that you can see him, you cannot touch him. But Satan is real in that you can see the results of what evil energy creates. Think of Satan as a real concept. Do not think of Satan as a solid form that runs around in a red suit and a pitchfork. But Satan is everywhere in the form of evil energy. Evil energies are growing, and with the concept of individuals formulating great wealth, great powers, having weapons of mass destructions with which to threaten others, you can see that evil energy is growing at almost an exponential rate.
Yes. Does anger come from Satan?
Anger comes from evil energy.
Correct. Did Ali have Uthman killed?
Ali suggested that perhaps the caliphate would be better off if Uthman did not exist.
Is it possible to know our mission in life?
It is impossible to know your true mission in life, but it is also extremely possible for your guides to lead you upon your mission of life through prayer. If you ask God, your guides, the angels, the saints, whoever you pray to guide you on your true mission, then we will attempt to do so. What you must do is open your heart and mind and follow the guidance that is provided.
Yeah. How would you propose that a member of the Islamic faith chooses a path of moderation in belief and practice without alienating those that believe only in the old ways and teachings?
That can be extremely difficult, especially in certain countries of the Middle East. Many people have been able to gain great power through following the old ways of Islam. There are areas of the world where it is almost impossible to show moderation without paying physical consequences. Sadly, it might be necessary for you to move to other countries where a more liberal attitude towards Islam is shown to others. There are many individuals living in countries such as France, United States, England, Germany. Muslims in those countries are allowed to show leniency in their beliefs and their practices. Sadly, there are areas where it is almost impossible to conform to modern beliefs.
What do you think of persons with gender identity issues?
There are persons that have chosen to come back and live a life plan with gender issues. That is a lesson that soul needs to learn in order to progress. There are individuals that have problems from prior lives that can lead to gender issues. An individual should be allowed to use his free will in how he practices those issues. An individual should not be persecuted for those problems. In many instances, they are not problems that they chose by making incarnate decisions, but that they chose by using the free will they had before they returned.
Okay, one more. Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. I would like to thank you for allowing me to bring you my messages. I know that many of the words that I speak are very contrary to the beliefs upon which you were brought up on. They're very contrary to what the religious leaders surrounding you will believe. But Islam has to progress. They have to modernize their beliefs to conform to the modern world. It is not a time that women cannot be treated as equals. The Islamic faith needs those women. They need them to help lead. They need them to help influence the young. Members of the Islamic faith have got to direct the young towards showing love towards those they disagree with. The young have got to show an openness towards the other great religions of the world. They have got to show an openness to charity. They have got to learn to coexist with everyone that's around them. The modern Islamic family cannot teach the children isolation from the rest of the world. They have to understand that all souls have a common identity. They need to understand that when they're in heaven, there are no differences in skin colors, in belief. There is no hatred over here. They need to understand that Islam is one of the world's greatest faiths. They should take pride in it. They should understand that, as in all faiths, there are certain teachings that are not correct. They need to understand that, as in all faiths, throughout time, man has made decisions that are not the decisions of God. Families have got to teach the children that they should pray. They need to pray to the one God. They need to pray to Allah. They need to ask for His guidance. They need to understand that He is real. They need to understand that nothing exists without the understanding and knowledge of the God. I want you to know that my teachings are now going to be incorporated into writings. Please understand those writings. Do not think that I am attacking Islam in any way, manner, or form. I am trying to lead my beloved religion into modern times and into assuring that each member of my religion is judged properly when they return, and upon their return will advance in the realms of heaven. Love, coexistence, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Very, very simple teachings to follow in everyday life. Pursue the sacraments of Islam in any way that you feel is proper. If the old ways is what has been taught to you and you feel that you should not change, then follow the old ways. If you feel that my messages of love and peace are appropriate, then follow my modern messages. Respect all of the religions of the world. Some are better in teaching the words of God than others. But respect the fact that any soul has the free will to follow God in any way, manner, or form of which they choose. That free will is making decisions that will lead that soul on the life plan that it is requiring. So I thank you for listening to me. As you know, I've been treated with the greatest of all respect. I am simply bringing words to you through Barry and Connie. I asked Barry to return to do this, and he has agreed to dedicate his life to bringing my words and the words of the Christian God to all that will listen. Spread the good words, live a good life, and be assured that there truly is a heaven. And when you return to that heaven, you will be informed of what you did that was good and what you did that was bad. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you will pass on my words to others. Do not use my current messages to invoke any violence towards anyone. Each needs to make their own decision as to how they follow the Islamic faith, the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, any of the thousands of faiths out there. Just know there are many paths to heaven, and leading a good life is the key to all of them. So goodbye. Thank you. And may the blessings of Allah be upon all of you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. That was a wonderful message from a wonderful soul.
Yes, thank you so much. We will be bringing these words to you in book form at some time in the future. All the messages and channelings are on my YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strom. Thank you for listening. Pay attention to his words. He is a wonderful, wonderful spirit. Goodbye.